Good morning, everyone. Welcome and happy Monday. This is Faith Family Focus, and I am one of your co-hosts, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate and now CEO and founder of a social media branding company called Brand by Faith. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and has also served as VP and on the executive board with the RPFPC, NFL Former Players of Chicago. Good morning, Dad. Way to match me with these earth tone shirts.
Well, it's the fall. It's Thanksgiving, so I can't wait for this transition into the holiday season because I know how excited I am about Christmas, and I also know that my daughter on the other side over there has already been breaking out her ornaments already.
Oh
So
yeah, I hit Hobby Lobby. Oh yeah.
Hobby Lobby, okay.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing about Hobby Lobby. I normally don't really approve of it because, they're a little scandalous. But I will say Hobby Lobby is the only thing we got over here in Manhattan, Kansas. So while I am deprived of my home goods, Hobby Lobby will do. And I will say they have a lot of sales. They're 50% off. Like
Why do you call them scandalous, babe?
Oh, you haven't seen the news. I'll update you later.
Okay.
But no, Hobby Lobby's fine. It's just, they're very outspoken, kind of like Chick-fil-A.
Okay,
yeah, one of those things. Yeah, you feel me?
Yes,
Still great places. We still eat Chick-fil-A though. And so they have their Christmas stuff and their fall Thanksgiving stuff all laid out. So I had to hit it this weekend, and I got some ornaments and little decor stuff for the background, and it's nice. I'm excited.
I like how you now are catching up with your dad, your decor,
oh my gosh,
in your interior decorating. I knew that you would catch up one of these days. You're matching. You got certain colors. I know. I know your mom was really good with her hands. It looks like you're acquiring a little of that too with your art too.
So. Yeah, I don't really know if you gave it to me. I think that maybe you acquired it within your marriage. I don't really, you know what I mean? And maybe you just kind of took over. But I do know that once holidays come, people get all happy.
Right.
It's sad. I'm like looking forward to like the rest of the year, and I'm like, gosh, what am I supposed to do for the springtime? Easter isn't really my thing. So
right.
We'll see. But lucky Thanksgiving's almost a week and a half.
Right. And you're going to be doing the basketball thing with
again
Kansas State, and going to watch some of his games. He's going to be in Kansas City, correct?
Yes, Kansas State plays in a shootout with Cincinnati, Illinois, someone else, Arkansas.
Okay.
Arkansas. So basketball is full go. First week of basketball, check. Some great games this week. A couple upsets on the women's side, but just a great. Yeah, there were a couple upsets. Did you watch basketball yesterday?
No, I did. I watched football yesterday.
Oh, interesting. I see how parenting styles change as your kids grow older.
Well, I pay attention to the game, but I didn't get a chance to watch.
There were a couple upsets yesterday. Stanford, defending national champions on the women's side, got their rings yesterday, but then got upset by number 25 Texas at home in Stanford. So at Stanford, I should say. Beautiful campus. But so unfortunately, your girl, Coach Vanderveer, lost their first game of the season, but I think that was the first time they lost in 4 years on that home court.
Wow. Yeah.
Good morning, Suggs Mugs.
Yeah, Suggs Mugs. Buford is going to be with me this week. He's actually went out to the Yale game against Harvard. Of course, speaking of Harvard, they lost a tough one against Princeton last weekend. So the Harvard-Yale game coming up this week is not going to be as it is meaningful, but it's not going to be for the conference championship. So,
talk to us a little bit about give people who are new to us a rundown about why we care about Harvard. I mean, not Harvard, Yale.
Yeah, well, so your little brother, who's 6'5", is a sophomore quarterback there. He's there, but he's in his second year, and this will be my third or fourth time to go out to see them play, and it will be their final game. And we're still debating whether or not I'm going to drive out there, we're going to drive back, or because they have an annual banquet on Sunday that we didn't anticipate. So we're trying to figure out if we're going to make that. But so this
those Ivies. Those Ivies in their banquets.
Ivies, yeah.
Funny story, actually. You're going to laugh at this since we're talking about Ivy Leagues and banquets. That's kind of how they get their money. Last night I was, watching Adele If you guys didn't see it, amazing. I watched her and Oprah. Good morning, good morning. And not only was I just swayed by her in general, right, floored, but I'm sitting there enjoying my time, and I get a phone call around 9 p.m. Central Time, and I'm like, who the hey is from Durham, North Carolina, calling me? Alumni call, asking for money. And I was like, I just graduated. So go ahead, you get your banquet. It must be that time of year. And they were like, well, if you don't want to donate 25, go ahead 10, and this will help. It was a student. He was like, you could help us. And I said, I don't think you need my $25. Like, they got it out of me anyway. So, but no, it must be that time of year. Colleges are coming around Thanksgiving. Kids are going back home. So exciting stuff. It feels like we're back to normal. I know we're not completely. Prayers to, gosh, everybody who's still fighting all of this stuff. But, you know, we are full go with basketball season. It is exciting. It is rolling. We had a couple great shows recently. Last week, we had an amazing one. Why don't you give people a little rundown about how our show went with Paul?
That was phenomenal. Paul was praised. His son, Joshua, was suffering from a chronic disease. Yes,
muscular. It's MTM.
Yes, MTM, and he shared his story about his foundation and, of course, his journey with football. And it's a show about adversity. Although we're former football players, that we do also experience, setbacks in our lives and how we were overcome it. But how him and his wife just went on a journey to bring awareness to this chronic disease. And it was just a phenomenal, fantastic guest. And of course, we played on the same team together, but we didn't play with each other. He actually missed me by a couple of years. I was a little bit older. So it was a wonderful guest. And then you had a phenomenal show on Friday that you can talk about.
Yeah, we had a great show on the Huddle on Friday. On Mondays, we go Faith Family Focus Live. On Wednesdays, we go Faith Family Focus reruns, because we have over 100 shows going right now. And then on Fridays, I take over and I have my show hosted, The Huddle, which we bring on a guest. And we, spotlight people's stories more of, instead of a discussion, is which what we would do. I'm here on the Faith Family Focus. And so we had Abby Duncan, Paralympic gold medalist in Rio in 2016. She joined us to tell her story. Man, she covered a wide variety of her experience from going to a full-blown walking child to all of a sudden a child in a wheelchair, all due to complications and chronic pain. And then, finding a way to fight through that, finding a way to not only that, but also her identity was up in the air, trying to figure out who she was as a young woman, and then becoming, finding this thing called wheelchair basketball. And she did, and she, next thing you know, she gets a gold medal in the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games. So it's just an amazing story. If you haven't seen it, it's right below this one on our Facebook page, but also it's on E360 TV if you just type in The Huddle or Faith Family Focus, and you can catch it. But we had that one. Then we had an awesome one, the previous Friday with Anne-Marie Nitty, which we have a clip on that if you wanted to, play it. But Anne-Marie did an amazing job. She's a former model in Manhattan for a decade. And then also now she's writing a new book studying, the digital age of social media's effect on, young men and women in today's society. So an amazing show, an amazing women guests for sure. And so I have another amazing show this Friday coming up with Shana Humphreys, co-anchor on Philadelphia News. And she was also a KCCI Des Moines, Iowa News. And so just her story, obviously from where we're from. So we talk about her story. We talk about, her identity as a young biracial woman. We talk about her navigating curly hair in the New York area, which was a thing she had to figure out, what was acceptable, what was not acceptable, and embracing it. And so an amazing story, just talking about, her job as a news anchor and reporting and the stress of it, but also learning to balance how to be polite and not in people's face, and not understanding the purpose of your mission, and that's to display stories and news. And so what an awesome show we have on Friday as well. But a lot of great stuff coming from The Huddle, and a lot of great stuff coming from Faith Family Focus. And even more stuff exciting happened today.
Yes, have a wonderful, wonderful guest. CEO President, Fox Valley Institute of Growth. Her awards: Best Naperville Marriage Therapist, Business Influence, Woman of Business Woman of the Year, finalist in the Naperville Chamber, Dr. Laura Bokar, and she is here to talk about her new, potentially bestseller book, We Need to Talk. And I cannot wait because I got a chance to go through this book, and there is so I told her before the show there's not enough time to talk about this book. It is a phenomenal must read. I don't know if you could run the her link or her Amazon click.
We actually just sorry to cut you off. We put the Barnes and Noble link and the Amazon link on our Facebook. So if you guys want to check it out, I know a couple people have already viewed it leading up to the show. So exciting stuff there.
Yes. So before we bring her on, I can't wait to bring her on. You want to go ahead and segue into that?
Yep. So we'll run a quick commercial, and then after we have, some time for a little break, not much, 50 seconds. We'll see you guys soon to talk with Dr. Laura. Good morning, Dr. Laura. How are you?
Good morning, Faith. I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for joining us this morning. Yeah. I know we talked a little bit before. It's always funny because our guests are like, "Oh, welcome back." But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to talk about your story, but also this wonderful book that we showed a little bit right before we hopped you on. There we go. We need to talk. And Dad hit it right on the head. There is not enough time to go over the 24 topics that you cover in that book, which are amazing. I got to skim through the just to see that you're in the contents and then skip through. And I was like, okay. Oh, yep. That one too. Yep, that one too.
Simple but powerful.
Yeah. So a wonderful book. So we are just so thankful to have you here. Just a lucky show we are. So
I feel very blessed being here, and I'm so fortunate to know your dad, Schaefer, and I'm so blessed that he invited me on. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Just so you know, we just for our viewers, I'm on the executive board of Loaves and Dishes, and that's where I met Dr. Laura Bokar, and we have been in communication probably for the last 6 months. Have not met in person yet, but we have communicated a lot. I'm excited to finally get a chance to at least talk to you in person, and then maybe the next step will be
in person. That would be
awesome.
As in person as it gets in 2021.
Yes,
make the best out of everything. So why don't we dive a little bit into, how did you get to where you are? So at what point in your childhood and your life, leading up to this point, motivated you to get into family and marital couples counseling, which many would say is a hard career to tackle? How you got there?
Well, if I can tell it through a little story, everything in my life was really wonderful. Up to the age of 15, I had a family. My mom and dad were married. My mom stayed at home. I had my siblings, 3 siblings, and it just felt secure and safe. I was enjoying my life with, I was on the diving team, cheerleading, just the fun things in high school, right? One day I come home and turned the doorknob and it didn't open and it was locked, and our door was never locked. Well, I leaned in and heard 2 people arguing, and I'm like, that's mom and dad. Like, mom and dad never argue. And to give you an example, the only way I knew my mom was mad at my dad is there'd be a coconut cake in the house. Why coconut cake? Dad didn't like coconut cake. So there was coconut cake in the house. There was something going on that you just knew between the 2. It was very funny. So that was the point of my devastation, trauma as a child, turned my world upside down from the secure, safe, happy home to who are you, where are we going, where are we living, what's happening, and all the turmoil that comes with trauma. So fast forward 10 years as I go through the bumps and the bruises of that experience and figuring out what to do and who I am. I converted from Catholicism to Christianity. And I mention that because I learned how to have a relationship with God and not just follow the rules, which is so important. And through that journey, I found that my spiritual gift was counseling. So what I did after that is gave up my company car and briefcase for a backpack and bicycle and back to graduate school. So at age 26, I believe it was, or older, I went back for my graduate degree. So, and that was really the start of my journey to figure out um, how can I help people to who are going through this, who can how can I help them not go through this and help the kids also, and also being from that time through that experience, I knew what they were going through. I understood it, and I really wanted to prevent it because there's so many times divorce or separation can be prevented. It just you have to put some work into it and to understand what to do. And it's just so exciting to be able to provide that journey and help people through that journey. And even if they decide that the marriage isn't going to work, at least they will have a relationship that they can go to the weddings together. They can be together and have a cordial relationship. That's also the goal for everyone's sake.
Yeah. Many say that your job, your career is very draining on your personal soul,
Mhm.
right? Because you're taking everybody's stories and frustrations and happiness and onto you daily in your 1 hour sessions, right? Or half hour sessions.
Right.
What is one thing that you would combat that with? Is at the end of the day, is it the bigger picture? Is it the positives to see it on the line? What is it that kind of gets you going? Because at times it can, it is a lot to take in. You are the bridge for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is a lot to take in, but the one thing you learn through your growth as a therapist is taking it on the problems does not help at all. If you take it on and try to fix it or try to grieve about it for them, it doesn't help them. They need to go through their journey, they need to keep it. So it's really knowing the boundaries to do that and to be able to leave it with them when they leave your office. And it
Right.
doesn't mean that there's some stories that are very sad and tearful and you take a minute in between, but it you really find you can't take it or fix it for them because it won't sustain.
Yeah. How do you feel that this career fulfills your purpose? You talked about trying to help people not just be better, but grow with one another, whether it's, they stay together or not. How do you feel it's fulfilling your purpose on earth?
Hmm.
I feel it is my purpose.
Yeah.
It is. It's I've been fortunate that what I do, I feel is what I was created for, and I've never questioned it once I got into it. Even as a kid, I was always the one that people came to talk to, and I didn't know what to do. But to have the abilities to really help people through their journeys, it's again a gift that I've
Yeah.
been given. I feel fortunate.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Sunday, I was doing my virtual church. I was watching Stephen Furtick. I don't know if people know. He's a YouTube. I think he's Evolution
Oh
Church.
yes.
Yes, and he's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So he had a wonderful show yesterday talking about purpose and like our lives fulfilling what we're supposed to do and how it doesn't, our purpose doesn't come immediately, but it's when you stop fighting what God is putting in front of you that you're supposed to be doing in life is when you really start to feel you're fulfilling your life's purpose. But it takes so much for a lot of us. We want to start a career this way. We want to start this way. We want to start this way. And, until we finally surrender to, the mission in hand, we won't really find pure happiness through our work and our
Absolutely.
livelihood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Laura, I was curious. I think we talked about when we first met on the phone about your marriage and how does your profession positively influence your relationship at home? How does it impact
I think in a positive way.
that?
He lets me win the fights because he thinks I'm going to win, so he just gives it to me. But I'm fortunate that I am married to an amazing man who supports me, loves me, and really has nurtured me through my career and the time together. So what he will do is, I'll say, I'm really interested in this seminar, but I don't want to recommend it if I haven't attended it. So can we go attend this seminar? And so he'll come along and we'll grow and through it. But he's been just a trooper
That's
to
great.
really attend the things with me. So, and he is a godly man and just someone who is really takes care of the marriage well. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah. We talk about family, we talk about, in your profession, sometimes, like I said, you are that bridge for other families, right? But are there often times where you are able to apply, the things that you've learned or the things you've teach within your own spaces? And what is that like? Is it sometimes hard for you to step away and kind of see sometimes, wow, I'm the one making a mistake here. So and so is making the mistake. How do you kind of balance that little, not being the doctor, but also seeing yourself, vulnerably?
I think because of my own journey through therapy and being able to own, the more I know, the more I don't know.
Mhm.
So, and I think I'm humble in that way that if I'm wrong, I want to own it, admit it, and heal or repair the relationship. If I don't do that immediately, I go back to it. I'll take some time and think about it, but I'll come back. So, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's also because of what I do. I have to do that. So I have to practice what I preach. So, and sometimes again, it's easier than others.
Yeah. So, this book, We Need to Talk.
Yes.
Let's pivot a little bit to it because, that we're already halfway through the show, and this is probably going to take 2 years to get through the book. What came over you when you were like, let me sit down and put these thoughts, these themes to paper?
Yeah. Um, it it was through the years I just really started seeing patterns in relationships and also finding that I think people know these things, but they don't. And when you're in your profession, whether it's basketball or football for you, Schaefer, there's things that you know that you probably think we know that we don't. Um, so it was really being wanting to be helpful, to have people have that insight, and then be able to have kind of a quick read, so they'll be able to see what applies to them and then they can take it further. So it was just something like, I think these would be helpful for relationships if people knew about how to say I'm sorry and about the love languages. And I know you had someone on talking about the 5 love languages,
Right.
to really needing to take be an incredible person if you want to marry an incredible person. There's just certain
Yeah.
things we need to know.
Yeah. It's funny watching that special last night with Adele and Oprah. And Adele said, this is the first time I'm loving from a space where I'm loving myself more.
Yeah.
And I think that, obviously you touch on that in the book. Do you feel
Mhm.
that that's one of the biggest themes that motivates all 24 of them, or that it has to come from a space of self love?
I wish I could say yes to that, but I don't think so. I think some of it comes from pain.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it comes from injuries. Some of it comes from not being taught. So even to have self love, you need to figure out what does that even mean,
Yeah.
and how will I be different if that happens. So I think it has more to do with um, the hurt that occurs.
Yeah. So one of the ones is an extraordinary relationship starts with you being extraordinary.
Yeah.
What are some ways you can begin this process as a human being?
Well, first, I think you have to decide that that's what you want to be, because of for good reasons, because you want to be a better person and it's really for you. It's not I want to do this to get that. So it's really looking at yourself, and sometimes we can't see those things. So find someone close to you who you trust who will let you know, and be honest with you. But it's also looking at some of your past relationships to see, is there depression? Is there anxiety? Is there a way that I relate to men that is different than I think I should because maybe I didn't have a good relationship with my dad? Or do I treat women differently because I don't, because I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. So the parental relationships have a lot to do with what we learn. So it's also assessing former relationships and how were we in those and what is it we want to change about them to make them better and healthier.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say it all. Often, people, when they think of therapy and counseling, it's like, well, it's something my parents did in my lifetime that affected who I am today. And it's just even the very, process, routines, habits, things you pick up through years of when you're developmental stage.
Yes.
It starts very young. Um, and one of the biggest things I think is we talk about being an extraordinary person helps you build an extraordinary relationship. As we expand as adults, right? You get married, then you expand your love to in-laws, and you expand your love to children. How does, creating that extraordinary self expand and change and evolve as you add more to the plate?
That's a big question. I think it will be different for everyone because it depends on the focus. Some people will have children, so they'll expand in that way. And how do you balance keeping my relationship with my husband primary when my children are demanding more than my husband? So it's really looking at how to do that. But I think self-care is going to be real important for all of us through relationships, that if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of the people in our relationships that we're in a relationship in. So we have to really look at the stages of our life and how is that different and what do we need to do different and how do we need to be different to make it an extraordinary relationship or life.
Yeah. The next one we talk about is relationships are complicated and messy. And I know this is going to be a very extremely loaded question. Are relationships supposed to be easy?
I don't know. Let's start with Adam and Eve. I don't think if they're our model. Whew. So I think in the beginning, when the relationship begins, if it's a romantic relationship, if that's what we're talking about, I think it can be easy because we put our best foot forward. As we discover and get to know each other and hopefully are vulnerable with each other, we share our hurts and pains. And that's where we really see, are we compatible? Are they going to help me heal my wounds? And are they going to also meet my needs? So it's really, and that's what makes it complicated because we all come from different backgrounds, let's just start with men and women.
Yeah.
Right. How different are we? And then women and women, doesn't matter, men or men, but they have different histories, different mom and dads. What did they learn? What did they bring in? Different cultures, different ethnicities. So it just gets messy, and it's really finding the joy in getting to know that mess and enjoy each other through it.
Yeah. I mean, and I know probably in your position, you have a lot of people come to you and it's like, it's just not easy. This is so hard. And I feel like that very effort that we're putting in that's making it hard is telling us to quit. You know what I mean? To step
Right.
away.
Right.
When we are, we all also face conflict in different ways. And I think that's another thing that you touched on is, accepting that compatibility. Often you have to accept the fact that some people run from conflict, or they embrace conflict, or they lash out in conflict. And I think that one of the questions I have is when we talk about conflict compared to uncompatibility, how do you know when it's just not working and no, this is just another bump in the road?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I'm always going to preface that all relationships and people are different, but just to kind of make it understandable, conflict, you either resolve, you agree to disagree, or you negotiate through it. So it's an understanding of it and wanting to work together with it. Uncompatibility is really not meeting the needs or negotiating or wanting to resolve it. So it's really feels like a whole different ball game when it's not compatible. The needs aren't being met.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does. And I know that can be a blurry gray area for a lot of people because we don't really, everybody is different, right?
Right. And I'm just thinking of a client that came in that he really thought his relationship was over because they had their first conflict. I mean, they thought it was real, honestly thought it was over, and not understanding that conflict is healthy. I mean, it helps people grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can help people grow.
Let me back up a little bit. There's something that I read in the book about us um, being patient with relationships and not being too vulnerable too quick,
Mhm.
and becoming friends, learning about their family, learning about your family, all those things that I remember in my relationship with Sue. We actually get married for, I think it was 4 or 5 years. And during that time, we took the time to become friends. And we took the time, and, these different cultures. I mean, it was so different. Age difference, culturally, we were different. We took the time to really learn each other. Um, I read that a part of your book is couples sometimes they don't take the time, they jump into it too quick and don't
Yes.
take the time to establish that strong foundation. Hmm.
Right. And attachment and connection that it sounds like you and Sue had.
Right.
And it just makes it into a more, I mean, the most important variable in a marriage is friendship. And
Yes.
how you develop a friendship is through time. You don't, to trust someone, to see that they're loyal, they're committed, they're with you through the pain and through this, and to celebrate with you. That all takes time. At least 4 seasons, someone even said.
Hmm.
Go through 4 seasons because people change in different seasons. So
People change in seasons. They also change within adversity. I've heard of some people like their partner loses a parent, or they lose they go through a tragic death, or they go through a job change, right? Where all of a sudden, their socioeconomic economic time changes completely.
yes.
How and what do you look for during those moments of adversity within a partner that should be encouraging to you? That this is something that could work, or maybe you don't know.
Mm-hmm. But it depends. I pause only because it's what they bring into the session. Okay, so they usually bring in something that is the hurting point in the relationship or the conflictual point in the relationship. And I think when stress is in any relationship, it's going to cause tension. And it's really understanding what's underneath that, because that's just the um, secondary emotion. That's just like the emotion they show. Like what's really underneath there is probably fear. Like I'm really scared that what's going to happen, and really talking about the primary emotions. And that's where people get lost, is that they stay with the behavior, and that's the secondary emotion. So it's more of the anger, the resentment, the frustration. And if we can get down to what's really happening, like I'm really scared, or I'm feeling alone, or I'm not sure if we're going to make it with this. That's the real stuff, and that's the stuff that really creates the attachment and the attachment for the relationship to last. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, you did. You did. I'm processing it. Because it's a hard thing for people to, well, in today's day and age, right? We talk about patience within relationships, and in the book, I think you said that relationships are friendships set on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing, right? But I feel like we have seen in today's society, and I spoke with a lot of my girlfriends about this, is we see a lot of these long-term couples, finally, they'll make it 7 years and finally get married. And then within 2 years, divorce. What do you think that is? Because that's something we're seeing more and more. And we're seeing the very idea of marriage be put in question in today's society, especially within my generation.
Yeah, it's an interesting, because I started an article, and I only have anecdotal research on it. But if you knew a car only worked 50% of the time, would you buy it?
No.
Like if you knew a restaurant you went to and the meal was only going to be good 50% of the time, would you go there? Why do people get married? The statistics is 50% don't make it.
Right.
And it was so interesting to hear that it was really about the emotional piece of it and children. People feel the children. So it was just fascinating to me for me. But I think it ends because when people are not in a marriage, they still are have this feeling of non-committal. So it's still needing to work very hard and still put on your makeup in the morning and do things that you don't do when you're married because you're in a trusting, loving, caring relationship. And not saying they're not, but there's one piece where are they not showing all of themselves? Do they feel comfortable that they can show that part of them? That would be my guess.
Yeah. Do you think it's important though that those boundaries and barriers of go down before marriage becomes a thing?
I think as much as we can show to someone that we are committed to, I think it's really important to know what, and it's only fair to the other person to know what they're getting into, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say go meet the parents of the people that you're dating. Go see what's happening in the family. Go watch them. Just watch them.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes that could be a journey. Dad, Dad, coming from an interracial marriage, and this is something that you
Yeah,
can give us a little highlight on.
yeah.
You know, and you also not only that, but there was an age difference of 14 years, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, how was your experience, and what are some things you would advise? You know, obviously your dynamic is completely different than anybody else's dynamic, but what are some of the things that helped you kind of navigate in selecting your wife in that moment? What are some things that helped you because you had everything all different in Wacko? It was different. It was different. It was different in the times too.
Well, I think, wow, that is a loaded question because there's so many variables there: the age difference, the race difference, and the fact that I had completely lived a full life before her. I think when I was a rookie playing for the Jets, she was 13. So it was a big, it was huge. And when we met, though, I think it gets back to we took the time to get to know each other, and I think for me, as a result of my upbringing, my mom was just so culturally wonderful in teaching me how to transcend. And I actually brought that into our relationship from somebody who went to a predominantly white school. And I think immediately I was fortunate to have a mom that just embraced her and brought her under her wing to sit her down and say, you don't need to change for us. Just be you, but understand us, understand culture, understand race. And she took that time. And it was important for my mom to embrace her because my mom was we were only 15 years apart and she had me when she was 15. She was my heart. And when I saw them for the first time be together, I knew that we were going to be together for a long time. And then I think the fact that there were people in my family that probably had issues, but were not brave enough to say anything because of who I was. My mom would put them in check. Okay, they knew that they better not, say anything. On the flip side of it, going to her family, it was. I had been in interracial relationships where it was an issue, but it wasn't an issue. The only issue was the age difference. Her father was a longtime Chicago teacher at Bogan High School. So, he kind of took the time to really embrace me. Of course, Joan, Sue's mom was, she would say things that come out of her mouth that were like, okay, you just don't know. You experienced some of that, but it was different, but on both sides there was embracing. We did things together. I think one of the most beautiful days of my life was our marriage, seeing the cultural diversity within not only my friends but her family and my family come together. So I was very fortunate. But it took some time. It took time. We spent a lot of time with each other's families. Okay, she knew the wide range of craziness in my family, and I knew a wide range of craziness in her family. It wasn't something that was unexpected. So when she went to her first Black funeral, and she saw people jumping up and down, she was warned. When I went to the first Catholic the funeral and they were going up and down, sitting up and down, my knees were dying and everything, I was worried. So it does take some time, and it takes a lot of conversation. So that was my experience. But as you well know, Faith, it doesn't always go that way.
Right. And all you can hear is at the end of the day, support system. And Dr. Laura, you can touch on this. How key do you feel the support system of family or even friends? Because sometimes friends is closer than family, especially with young couples.
Yeah.
How important do you think that circle is around couples?
Oh, it's so important. They will uplift you during and celebrate with you, and also be there for you when you're hurting. So it's needed. It's almost a primary um, situation that you need. It's like I can't even imagine without it. People not having it, but I can, and they're in my office. So
Yeah. Well, you know what? One of the biggest things I think through marriage, and from what I'm seeing, and one thing I know that I will have to navigate as I enter that space as well one day, is shedding certain people from your lives.
mhm.
Do you find that sometimes that's a hard thing for people to do? And then also, is it hard for people to even navigate what that circle should look like now that you are in a space of, long-term commitment?
Yeah, sometimes people are very committed to friends who are not as committed to them,
Mm.
and it's just something. It's just how they were brought up. So they hang on to friendships that are very hurtful and painful for them, and it's very healthy for people to go through different stages, different people during their lives. For friends, because you change. If you're changing and your friends aren't changing with you, it's probably a season that you've enjoyed them and you learned and they've grown, but you need to say goodbye and move forward.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's hard. It is hard.
It is hard. It's hard doing that by yourself, as we go through different stages in life. Like you said, we go through the seasons. We lose friends from each point in our life, whether it's from college to your
Yes.
marriage, to your first child, to your next big promotion. You find that your friend circle changes a little bit. Um,
Really?
it normally it either elevates as you get higher, or it completely changes demographically or socioeconomically, or even just like your neighbors, or
Yeah.
sometimes the very friends you have at that time point in your life, because they have kids too, right? You have things to bond on. So you say create the relationship you want, or life will do it for you. How do people have control over their relationship as life throws the very hurdles we know it can do?
But I think it's looking at the areas of life we do have control of. And that is the wheel of life, right? And in
Mm.
that wheel of life, it has is it 10 spokes where we really look at the health and wellness, the spiritual, the financial, the recreational, the lifespan, all the areas of our lives, the emotional, the intellectual. How are we going to learn and grow? So it's really taking time and sitting down with your partner and deciding how are we going to do this one this year. I know my husband and I do it every New Year's Eve, that we go through and decide, set our goals for it, and really mark it. And it's kind of fun to look back over the years to see how it's changed. But there are things we do have control of, just like when you're building a house, right? Or so you really look at what you want to build, where you want to build it, how you want to build it. Same thing with your own life. I find people spend more time building a house and buying a car than they do in building a relationship. So this is just a structured way for us to be able to take control and decide how we want it to look.
Yeah.
Or life will do it for you.
Yeah, I like that habit of doing it at New Year's Eve. I know in my personal relationship, this is gonna sound funny. It makes me sound like I'm a big zodiac sign person. I'm not. But on the last full moon of the year, I write my goals down individually, and I got him to do it too, and multiple of my friends, and then I burn them in either a bonfire or something, so that the goals you have and the standards you want to uphold for that season, for that next year, 2021. Now, maybe it makes them come true, but it also helps you just, write down the goals that you want. And so applying that to your relationship is another way. Because, you should probably have no card for yourself. You also should probably have no card for your relationship, because both take two completely different energies
Yes,
to uphold, especially when we're talking about goals and habits and staying disciplined to all of that.
absolutely.
And so,
But Faith, I really applaud you having the full moon because that's when the energy is the
yep,
highest, right?
yep,
So, um,
yeah, I know what I'm doing a little bit, but I just wish I knew about it earlier in my life. The type of especially as women, our energy and who we are is very much swayed by the very environment that we're in. And so, but a lot of people don't know, but women have like that powerful space. And so, learning ways to capitalize off of, trying to take life in your own hands and as best as you can is a nice self-care item as well.
it is, and part of that self care is allowing our feminine energy to come out, right? Because especially if you, with your new company, you're going to find your masculine energy is going to be dominant, and that can cause some problems sometimes in the
Yes.
relationship.
Yes. One thing we actually spoke on, I know I had a show on it, and then I've spoke with a lot of friends on it, is your divine femininity and how both genders should have piece of both, right? You should have the
Oh,
masculine, the femininity, and you have the healthy balance between the two is understanding what they look like within yourself. And when you can find a way to check yourself and have that healthy balance, you're a lot, I feel like you're a lot more relaxed, one, but also everybody around you doesn't have to feel like they're walking on eggshells either, because you're in a space of such balance in where you are. And that's hard as life, stress and business and schools and kids and all the stuff that comes in to shift you, especially as women. I feel like women, and you can give me your opinion on this, is women have a way of kind of setting the tone within home, especially when they become moms. I think I remember that specifically growing up, is his dad, especially when he was traveling, but when he started coming home more and more, we all knew when to, you hear her moving around, her heels on the floor. Oh, let's all go all of a sudden find something to do. Let's vacuum. Let's let's get it together over here. But it's very, I think that's why I think it's very important. Maybe in the couples you see, is that often something that you notice is that a husband is like, well, sometimes I don't want to make her mad, or this or that. How do you like encourage them as women to kind of create that safe space by helping themselves first?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because they're off in their CEO position or head of a bank or something, taking charge of hundreds of people, and they come home and the woman's in charge,
Yeah.
and it's almost like that's their space. And it's, again, it's really having a conversation about it. And what happens with couples is that they get into what we call a cycle, this cycle that people get into and don't know how to get out of, and it causes negative communication and negative behavior. And once they can identify the cycle and understand what's really going on underneath that, and to stop the injuries that are occurring in that cycle, that's when it can become a safer place.
Yeah.
But without that, that cycle keeps kicking in, and it will kick back in. But when couples know about it, it can stop. They can say, oh, there it is again. Okay. So it's not the man or the woman or the wife or the husband is bad. It is the cycle that is bad. It's like, and let's stop this.
Right. Okay. When we talk about divorce, the word divorce, when should people go to counseling? And you say go to couples counseling before using the word divorce, which I've heard and from many people, right? Couples, books, famous people, everyone says to go to couples counseling like it's a regular thing. Go jogging, go monthly, try to tune up your marriage, right? Tune up your relationship. Touch a little bit on that, because I know that that's something that I'm sure a lot of people would want to be educated on as we're nearing, this new generation of how we view marriage.
Right. I think it's really nice when people come in prior to an issue, come in and kind of assess their relationship. So it's before the problem, to build a relationship with your therapist. So that way you have them if something comes up that you've built trust with already. Also, I have a few couples that come in at 6 months and a year just for checkups. They come in for check-in, and it's very wonderful, but very unusual. And I think they're the healthiest couples to do that, because through our stages of life, right? Marriage, death, children, change of jobs, moving, there's certain situations that are going to come up that we're going to struggle with. And to have someone that you can jump right in, they know your story, they can help you navigate through it, I think is a gift that they can give the relationship. And I, as a therapist, have never used the word divorce. It's nothing that a therapist, I believe, should ever tell someone. It's something they can decide to do, and then you help them navigate through that. But that's one thing. The word divorce should not be said unless it's going to be used, because that's one word you can never take back. And that puts a real question mark in the spouse's mind throughout the relationship.
Yeah. And I think doubt is probably the worst thing that can happen, I think, in any relationship there is, because we're as human beings, we already have self-doubt. So, when you put something out like that out in the air, it could be like, Pandora's box.
Yep. Sure is.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I mean, we have so many other questions, but I really think that's the best way to end, because I feel like it went like full circle a little bit. So, Dr. Laura, thank you so much for joining us this Monday morning.
You did an amazing job,
and I'm very excited for this book. We Need to Talk. Once again, it is available on.
And thank you, Schaefer, for sharing your story.
Yes. Well, I had to touch on that, because if we could use a couple as an example, that would be a great one to use, because when you talk about hurdles and adversity and compatibility, you got to really pick and choose what compatibility looks like, and you guys had to do that, Dad, and so it's a beautiful story to share as well.
And you created an amazing daughter and son. So
thank you.
Amazing daughter. Son is all right.
She practiced the masculine energy on me. So you know that. You see her roll her eyes.
You're supposed to say, "Love you, Daddy."
Yeah, he deserves it. He needs it. He needs some structure. We Need to Talk is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. We shared it on our Facebook page, but also you can rewatch this show on E360 TV as well as Faith Family Focus. But Dr. Laura, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope
for having me
on one day.
Good to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you all for joining us this Monday morning. Wow, a beautiful new week in November. We're near Thanksgiving, so thankful. We're thankful for a lot of things this week, but I think that what we're most thankful is this amazing show that we get to meet all these brand new people. So most importantly, thank you to Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, and of course, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus. We're going to use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others on strengthening their own family core. And of course, our slogan:
let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love.
Everyone have a wonderful week. We'll see you guys on Friday with the huddle.